Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. Today we'll be showcasing a little paper legacy. I'll be playing Naya Depths and Rob will be on Dreadstill. He recently just transitioned off of Shadow, testing out some new stuff like Microsynth Gardens and Minor Misstep, and hopefully we'll get to see those in today's video. So Rob won the die roll, just started with a Flooded Strand, passed on this hit, and I kept a little bit of a slower open, knowing I was against Standstill, but I kept an opening hand with both Stage and Depths, so I can enable the combo right under a fast Standstill, which is exactly what happens in this first match, which is very fortunate for me. And yeah, Rob did play the Microsynth Gardens, which is a pretty cool card. It enables him to basically cheat in one of his dreadnoughts, because with all of like the trigger on the stack, he can copy it and sacrifice the first one, or the copy itself to save the first one. So it's really cool interaction, and it also allows him to protect his in-play dreadnoughts from like a Swords or a Prismatic Ending or Force of Vigor or any kind of removal there. But yeah, so this game's just kind of moving along the way I had anticipated it. Rob snuck out the fast Standstill, and now I'm just kind of building up my mana base. Yavimaya is super crucial in making the combo because it allows it to tap itself for green mana, so it's not as taxing when you have the Yavimaya in play, which is really nice. A couple of lists I've seen lately have been bumping the count up to 3 Yavamayas. I think that's a little bit too much, only because when you draw that card in duplicates, it's a real feel bad. But I have increased some of my counts. Like I went up to 4 Mox Diamonds and 3 Sylvan Libraries, and I also upped the Stage and Depths count to 3 each. So I think right now I'm running 29 or 30 lands. I'll have to double check the actual list, but I really like the way the deck is performing, and I'm on 3 main deck Minskaboos. So here Rob did crack his own Standstill. I activated Thespian Stage, copy Dark Depths on his end step. He's forced to plow, breaking his Standstill, so I'll be able to draw 3. I did try to crop rotate in response to grab a Sajiri Step, but he had the Minor Misstep for it, and that card's pretty sweet, especially in Rob's list. It just seems super, super strong. Counter any 1-drop in Legacy for 1 mana is very good, and it basically took the spot of like what Spell Pierce or Flusterstorm would have been slotted in, and so far it seems to be really good, and here he's just pushing out with another Standstill. So these Standstill matchups can be incredibly weird. A lot of slow play, just kind of draw, pass, go, getting your mana built up. And fortunately for me, he has missed a couple of land drops this game, and that's one added bonus to playing 30 lands. Every other card, probability-wise, is going to be a land in your list. So it is helpful for helping to advance out a little bit. But he plays like Shark Typhoon, and I'm not sure if he's on any of the dragons, but a lot of cards that just enable him to get creatures out, under Standstill, and pretty much just lock you up. But here I did have the Maze, slow him down again, which is nice. And I think I'm just kind of biding my time, waiting for a good opportunity to pop the Standstill. So here he cycled the Shark Typhoon on his turn, pushing him up to 8 cards in hand. So he would have had to discard anyway. So it was a pretty good time to play an instant and pop the Standstill, allowing him to draw 3 more cards. But 1, removing one of the problematic sharks, and 2, he basically just has to discard the 3 cards that he just drew, or 3 cards in general. So he's not gaining like super hand advantage out of it. But it is obviously a huge swing, being able to sculpt your hand by 3. And I was thinking he had crazy, crazy hand because he discarded a Prismatic of Swords and a Brainstorm, 3 super powerful cards. But yeah, no, that worked out pretty well. So still on his end step. Nope, that was a misplay on my behalf. I believe I took that one back. And I'm just going to try and jam a knight here. first night resolved, so I'm going to just jam a second one right into days if he has it or not. Really advancing my board state is nice. I know Rob does play a couple of board wipes, so it's kind of risky building out too much on the board, but with 4 cards in hand, a lot of removal, I'm feeling pretty comfortable with it. This deck matchup has been interesting to learn. Sometimes it goes really, really long. Like we played a couple matches yesterday, and one game took about 50 minutes just because Standstill makes it so awkward, and it really draws out the entirety of the game. Or, sometimes Rob can just turn 3, slam a couple of dreadnoughts, and then, you're facing lethal on the following turn. So it is kind of hard to pick and choose where to go and how to play the game. Is it going to be a long game? Is it going to be a short game? But Naya seems pretty strong against it. It has a lot of good weapons in the sideboard coming in, like Rebs and Force of Vigors for his main threats, and it's so good. And you can sneak the combo underneath the Standstill. There's a lot of creatures, and they get big pretty fast. Like the Knights right here are 7/7s each. So, they're it's pretty good. So I believe he plowed one and putting my life total up to 46, which is pretty intense. We actually made a joke. There's a magic card, if your starting life total is over 40, you win the game. But more of just a meme than anything. So here it looks like he's probably getting ready. Oh, no, that's right. He dressed down to basically prevent my Knights from activating on my turn. He did talk about whether or not he should have dressed down prior to prevent me from gaining a little bit of extra life. But, I don't think it mattered too much to him in that circumstance. But he also wanted it to stick around on my turn. So if you dress down in the end step, it doesn't go away until the following end step, which is nice. So you get a little bit more out of it. But being at such a high life total, it's very fortunate, and drew into a Minskaboo. So, and yep, I expected this to be met with a Force of Will. Normally, he has a couple of those kicking around, and I believe he's also on Force of Negation too, which you might see in the second match. But having a Knight sticking around is really good. And here, I think I just kind of wanted to leave it up in order to start rotating away some lands instead of just attacking and trying to push damage. I have a decent amount of removal and stuff in my hand. I'm very comfortable. So there's no real reason to push damage when I can just kind of continue to advance my board state, especially while he's not doing a crazy amount. So here I'm going to use the Knight to rotate, I think, Yavimaya, because I have a second one in my hand, and grab Sajiri Step and basically nullify the Prismatic Ending, which is nice. I really enjoy Sajiri Step. It's kind of sucks when you draw it, but having 2 protection lands, or really, there's most of the lands in the deck are pretty much spells, but it's super effective for 1Z, 2Z removals like this. And I did make a mistake here. I should have floated a little bit of mana because I was going to try and crop rotate, but I had gotten rid of the Yavimaya, so my Karakas wasn't able to tap for a green. But that's okay. We'll just do it on the next turn. Rob isn't really forcing a lot of pressure here. He's got a 1/1 Shark on board, and I'm at 45 life. So this was a great draw. Just Sylvan Library at 45 life. You know what I mean? That's basically going to win you the game if it sticks around for more than a turn or two. Just creating so much advantage, and it's really nice to have some kind of advantage, especially when you're not playing blue. It helps you dig for answers, and it's a crazy card. It's very, very good. So here he tries to crack in another Standstill, which is fine. I'm going to waste his waste in response, force him to use it, and then I have the crop rotation in the hand for whatever he decides to hit. So we're going to crop away the Caracas. Not crazy useful in this matchup. He does not have any legendaries, and he did target the maze, but so crop rotation, go for the estimated stage, copy the maze in response. That way I still have a maze kicking around, and he can't kind of sneak any big sharks or anything in there and really pressure me any more than he already is. And with Sylvan in play, I'll just be able to dig and dig and dig and dig and dig for the combo. So really good position here. I kind of like where we're at. Just kind of going to fan through and see what he's got left in his deck. I think I was counting the amount of like Plows, Prismatics, and Wastelands that he's already used this game. Just trying to see if I can set myself up or if I should just go for it on his end step. And we do. So obviously he can block with the shark, keep himself alive for a couple of turns and dig until he can find a removal source. But again, if he does, he pops his own standstill, which is really nice. And I'm just basically generating 3 cards a turn anyway. And yeah, that's it. He scoops it up there. So for the sideboard for this matchup, I've kind of been playing around with it. I do bring in 2 Force of Vigors and 3 Red Blasts. Well, 1 Pyroblast and 2 Red Blasts. And that seems pretty solid. I don't want to have too many reactive cards in my hand and never be able to push the board state ahead. I do have a 3rd Force of Vigor that I can bring in, and I'm also on a couple of Veils at the moment. Veil just seems like it has its spots, I guess. But, I mean, if he, like, dress downs and then has a couple of Dreadnoughts, then it's just like, oh, okay, I'll spend 1 to draw 1. Like, it's not very effective. So I think Red Blasts are just better because you can counter the standstills, the Force of Wills, hit the sharks. It's just way more versatile. And I'm pulling out, I believe I shaved down on a Caracas, Bajuka Bog, 2 Endurances, and 1 Minskin Boo, I believe, were the 5 that I decided. I think here, yeah, I only brought in the 2 Force of Vigors. It's good because it's free removal, but if there's only 1 Dreadnought in play, it's a 2-for-1. Yeah, it'll keep you alive, and it's, it doesn't cost you anything if you have to pitch a card to it. But it's not something you really want to draw in multiples for this matchup especially. But it is better than some of the dead cards. A couple of the dead lands that don't serve any purpose and just kind of thin that out a little bit. But yeah, the only card that he plays is 1 Mystic Sanctuary, I believe, right now. So I guess you could bog him off of that if you really needed to. And in the sideboard, I know Rob brings in a few things. He brings in a couple of his board wipes, and he is on Terminus, which is pretty sweet in his deck. Obviously, you can manipulate it with Brainstorm and stack it how you want it, and then, Terminus to wipe my board. So, I believe this time I also had a good 7. It happens a lot in this matchup. And again, turn 2, Microsynth Gardens, which is a great enabler. I'm just going to fetch here. Or no, I'm sorry. I don't have to fetch here because of Yavimaya. I could tap it that way, but we're discarding Savannah to Mox Diamond and dropping out a Sylvan Library. And I believe he's going to fetch in response. Yep, grab a Tundra. And I'm not super hopeful usually with early Sylvan. I either expect it to be countered or prismatic. If it does stick around, not very often will I get to draw cards off of it. If I do, it's just almost an automatic take 8 in this matchup. Draw 2, but yeah. So it does stick around, and there's a removal. Yep, yep, kind of as we anticipated. I am holding up the fetch at the moment just because he does play Wasteland, and I'm only on 2 red sources. I do have a Mox Diamond, which is nice, but he does play Prismatics. I don't think that's really where he wants to be, but an avenue for him at points could be cutting me off red, and then that shuts down my Minskaboos and Red Blasts. So it's really good for him. And this game, I also drew into the Stage Depths combo, but while it's there, I'm just gonna try and continue my board state a little bit, just in case he does find the wasteland, which he has, and really just try my best to leave it on the back burner. It can be difficult at times knowing when you just try and jam the combo and what to be playing around, but Wasteland is just, it's a weird interaction. So sometimes if you have like a second stage, you can get around him wastelanding. And if you have crop rotation, you can get around it. If you have an elf or a knight, you can get around it. If you have your own wasteland, you can fire it off at their wasteland, forcing them to use it, and then you can activate the combo in response. There's definitely a lot of weird interactions that happen around wasteland, but for now, I think I'm really just trying to build out the board state and advance my board a little bit while keeping the combo on the back burner. It's pretty much like a imminent threat for him, so he always has to be able to react to it or play around it, and it's really nice to have just sitting out and play. So this was kind of a weird spot for me to be in. I did want to continue to advance. Drawing a knight is awesome, but it does unfortunately tap me out of being able to make the Merit Lage combo. And I don't exactly remember what I had in my hand. That's why we want to get those cameras set up. But I think advancing forward was better than leaving the combo up. And I think he fires off his Wasteland here to take out the stage, which was a risk that I was, definitely considering. So he dressed down, basically making knight a 2/2 with no abilities, and then removed it, which is kind of a bummer. He basically stopped both avenues, and then I believe he takes out my stage here. He was kind of in the tank about it as well, just because he's also struggling with mana. So he wasn't sure if that was the right play or not. But he does ultimately end up doing it. And then Dress Down will go away on his end step since he played it in his main phase. And we'll take the turn. And it's kind of a weird spot now. It kind of ran out of gas. So the counters went on, obviously, when it came into play. We just didn't put the dice on it. And he's sneaking out the Dreadnought. So he drops the Dreadnought, copies it with Microsynth Gardens, and then it sacrifices one of the two with 12 power to keep the other one around. And fortunately, I did have the swords, so just getting rid of it right away. It's kind of tough giving him 12 life, but it's that, or you're dead in 2 swings. So he did find another wasteland here, which is kind of unfortunate, but it's all right. We're just kind of slow playing right now, and taking each individual counter off of Dark Depths isn't a normal thing. That's really not where you want to be, but it certainly is a great way to use any unspent mana at the end of your turn. And here I just kind of start whittling away with Dryad Arbor a little bit. Advance the board state a little bit. Kind of clean some stuff up. If he does create a shark, it's not the end of the world. It's just a Dryad Arbor. But him being over 20 life is pretty relevant, especially if a Merit Lage does come down, because then it requires 2 swings. He'll get another turn, and then it's open to Prismatic Ending, where as normally if it's just a 1 swing, you could do it in their end step, and he has to have swords. So it is, kind of a bummer that he does have another Wasteland just chilling. Here we green sunned for Knight. And then he just kind of passed through his turn, and we took one more counter off, so now it's down to 5. It is kind of a very real clock, especially in this slower matchup where not much is happening. And I'd like to leave the Knight open in order to be able to rotate for either Sajiri Step, keep it around, or a Wasteland to deal with his Wasteland, kind of free up my depths and get the Merit Lage and win this match. Because I don't think attacking 27 times with Dryad Arbor is going to make the cut. I mean, I have gone coast to coast with Dryad Arbors before, in some very, very weird situations where stage copied Dryad Arbor and, you just 10 turn clock them. But it's not where you want to be by any stretch of the imagination. So here on his end step, I did rotate and got rid of the Sajiri Step, grabbed a stage. So now we do have the combo back online. But again, the Wasteland is, pretty problematic. Having Yavimaya in play is also a huge enabler, because Depths, again, can tap itself for mana. So it does free me up to start pursuing other avenues like this Minsc and Boo. So this is a really strong Daze by Rob. So it is unfortunately going to tap me out of my mana, and I won't be able to threaten the combo. And this was a pretty tough spot. Really, really strong Daze for him. So I think what I end up doing is using the Knight to rotate, and getting a Wasteland and setting myself up for the future turns. Yep, and Dryad Arbor goes away. There's the Wasteland, and I'll use the Wasteland to pay for Daze, and that way, one more turn cycle, and I'm already pretty much online. I can fire my Wasteland off at his, and then force the combo. So, Minsc and Boo still on the stack, I believe. And another one. Yep. And this was a spot for me where I just decided to let the Minsc and Boo go, because I felt like end stepping his, or having the combo open was more important, basically to shut off his Wasteland. Because if he Wastelands again and I can't do it, I believe I would be out of Dark Depths. And my list currently isn't playing Run Your Map or any ways to get your lands back from the graveyard. And I did side out the Endurances. So that was the thought process behind that. I think winning the game through the 2020 is more feasible than a Minsc and Boo sticking around. Both are really great options, though, and that's why I believe that card's so strong in this deck. It's just unreal. It can be turboed out as early as turn 2 with a Mox Diamond and a Green Sun for Dryad Arbor. Super powerful, and just being able to fling Merit Lage or a super big Knight, or even just making Boo bigger. You have a 1/1 to 4/4 to 7/7 real quick, and then 7/14 damage happens fast. And it's really nice, especially if it's out. It basically stops him from being able to play Standstill or anything to even remotely shut me down. So here he's gonna you got a 2/2 Shark into play, and he's just kind of weeding through the waters here, but I believe this is where we're gonna go for it. So he's in the tank quite a bit here, trying to determine what he wants to do. So he is going to crack the fetch, grab a basic. Swing at me with his Flying Shark, and then hard cast Terminus. So this is basically going to get rid of my knight and force me to have a little interaction prior, which is okay. Only because the only land he has up is Wasteland, and I have a Wasteland ready to rock and roll. But to be on the safer side of things, I did grab a second one, only because he hadn't made a land drop this game. So if he did happen to drop, this turn, if he did happen to drop a second Wasteland, it basically would have shut me right down. So here we're just going to fire the Wasteland off, targeting his Wasteland, forcing him to use it. And then we're just going to copy in response, make the 20/20, and then his Wasteland does resolve. And he actually targeted Yavimaya, which was interesting, but makes sense. But I did have a second one in my hand. And this is the kind of dangerous situation we were talking about where, the opponent's over 20, so swing with the Merit Lage. He takes 20, goes to 6, but now it's wide open to Prismatic and Swords. So he basically has twice the amount of outs to get rid of this thing. Thinking about a Wasteland here, and he does end up firing it off on the other Yav. It is a pretty good position to be in at the moment. I'm not super concerned. Even if he does get rid of the Merit Lage, 2 Mox Diamonds in play basically fix all my mana, and I can cast everything except for Minsk. And here he's gonna make a Shark on his turn. It does buy him another turn, but he's also looking for some kind of a removal suite. And he draws a card, passes. I have the end step Plow, and that'll do it. Oh, there's the Force. That might have kept him alive, but does not quite make the cut. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Have a great day. Get out there and play some Magic.